Hello and welcome to round 2 of season 5 with Wheel2W Racing, proudly supported by Track Racer. Today our lovely commentary team consists of myself, Footnar, we got Fine Moves on the visuals, and joining me in the commentary box again is the one and only Squidly.
G'day guys, thanks very much for having me, Footnar and Fine Moves. I'm in the lobby, watching the lobby D tonight for Wheel2W Racing. Set up to be a pretty good evening with 2 races at Circuit de Saint Croix B.
Perfectly said there. As Squidly said, we've got 2 races for you. Race 1 is going to be 7 laps, sunset timing. Race 2, we go into a reverse grid 14 lapper, also changing the time to 8:30 dusk settings. So shaping up to be a great race. We've got a good mix of some pace drivers and some midfield sitters in here, so it's going to be interesting to see how people can fight through the grid on the reverse grid race. Stay tuned and we'll be bringing you the action live. Straight into qualifying already now. We've got Rebel Dixie leading the way, about to cross the finish line for his first hot lap.
We'll just interject there at the moment. We're having a couple of technical difficulties with Widow in the lobby, and he's just not able to get out of the pit lane there. So our race convener, who is Herbal Green Tea this evening, has called for all to exit the race. We'll jump straight back into qualifying in just a second.
Yeah, so as most of you that play Gran Turismo would know, we are susceptible to glitches. It does happen. It's basically unavoidable. The best thing we can do is just regroup, start again, and have another go.
Oops.
Should start to see all the guys starting to jump out and hit that red X as they exit the race, and we'll be able to reset this lobby.
Bear with us while we sort this out, and we'll bring you some racing action very shortly. Thank you to all of those that are joining us so far. Nice to see you all. Still got 2 out on track, just waiting on them to exit.
Also had a bit of a last-minute reshuffle of the lobbies so that we could bring you the action from Lobby D with a nice full lobby. So shout out to Soulslayer for coming across at short notice. Appreciate it. That's qualifying cancelled, so we should start to see everyone smashing that green tick, starting to enter the grid, and we'll see qualifying back underway shortly.
Yeah, it's a slight delay tonight, but we do allow for that with our breaks in between races, so don't fear, you won't be missing any of the Div 1 action. Still coming to you at 6:30, 7. I'm in different time zones. I apologise.
That's 7 Eastern Standard Time in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, so it's 6:30 my time. That's where the confusion is.
And that's one of the good things about Wheel2W. We're all across the country. We're not all across the road, but the world. But we've got some guys from New Zealand, and we're scattered all across Australia in all the different states. So it's a good, nice, diverse mix of drivers to cruise around with.
Exactly right. Anyone that's interested in joining can find us on Facebook. We have a page at Wheel2W Racing. Also might be able to send a Discord link in the Twitch chat here for those joining us that aren't currently in the league. There we go. Zoo and G-Man in the chat. G'day, fellas.
Zoo in the chat. Looks like G-Man in the chat. We got a few here. It's good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for bearing with us as we punch into qualifier for round 2 of Wheel-to-Wheel Season 5, which is at Circuit de Saint Croix.
There we are at the B layout. We don't run tyre wear or fuel for quali, so we just allow the boys to get straight out there, set some pace laps, and not worry about the strategy aspects of quali. We kind of do that just because we do want quali to be relatively short in time, and just a bit more free-flowing. When you get a mix of cars just going all out and some doing strategy, it can cause a bit of chaos. So we try to eliminate that and make sure everyone has a fair qualifying, give himself the best chance to get up in front of the grid for the start of the race.
Absolutely. There's always a little bit of strategy in qualifying when you've got tyre wear and fuel on. You know, do you just crack out a couple of banker laps and hope for the best, or do you really try to burn that fuel, save those tyres, maybe change tyres halfway through qualifying? But really, we've taken a little bit of that strategy away by doing it this way, and it gives everyone a nice even playing field to be able to set their fastest lap to start out on the grid.
Exactly right. So we'll go for a bit of a run through the pack here, I think. We introduce you to who we've got running in Lobby D today. So up the front, we've got Rebel Dixie 85 leading the pack, just coming around this right-hander here. Closely followed by Vintage Racer and his Lexus there. Vintage going to be bringing you the visuals for the Div 1 stream coming up later today. Up you, baby, as well. Just looking to tuck in behind Vintage. No, he's going to pull out. He's going to take that position. A bit of strategy coming in with Slipstream here. We might be seeing. Up you just saying hello. Drop back one more. Marchy Boy in the Mercedes coming under a move from Vanquish. So everyone not really settling their positions in for qualifying yet. Trying to do that very late in the lap. Very important to find clean air. You don't want someone too fast behind you or too close in front of you.
It's all about finding that mix, but if you get that little bit of a nice slipstream from about a second back from the car in front, you just got to be making sure that you don't want to catch them. So
as I think Viking going for a late move around the outside on Marchy Boy. Hopefully this doesn't compromise their laps. Oh, there's contact on qualifying. They've both suffered there. Luckily, it looks like they're going to cross the line with enough time to get 2 laps in, but that is a dangerous game to be playing in qualifying, that's for sure. As Palmer's gone into the pits there.
He's gone into the pits and taken a tyre change. He might not have been tracking that we're not burning tyre wear on quali, but in any case, he'll have to run through an outlap before he's able to get into his full speed quali lap.
Yeah, so we've got also King Oscar there, and jumping back to Palmer, who just burning a penalty. Palmer also pit. Must have been on the wrong tyres, I think. I did see a green H next to his name. He's now chucked the softs on and he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, that could well be it. Yep.
Yeah, screw loose in the Lexus there as well. Pumping around the track just ahead of Soul Slayer in the Mustang. Oh, and Widow's in the pits. Got someone who hasn't left the pits yet. There is throttle input. Possibly glitching there from Widow.
I don't believe so. Widow was talking earlier just in the in-game chat. I think he's going to leave himself in the pits. He's going to bypass quali and start at the back of the grid, and just keep out of everyone's way, he said. So, again, coming into one of the perks of this league is that we've got not only drivers from all different parts of the country, but also of all different capabilities and skill levels. So what we're seeing is these guys who are here more to learn and that sort of be really competitive. They're just going to sit themselves at the back of the grid and really just try to finish their race nice and cleanly and see how they go.
Yeah, so the time's shaping up to be a really interesting quali so far. We've got Vanquish setting the fastest first sector and the fastest fourth sector. You've got Vintage Racer setting the fastest second sector, and Up You Baby setting the fastest third sector. So everyone's neck and neck at the moment. We've got Rebel Dixie just about to cross the line. We'll see what time he's going to post. It's 2:09.2. See if anyone can beat that. Vintage Racer straight up to the top. probably picking up some of Up You Baby's slipstream there, setting a 2:07.4, netting himself a 1.7 second gap to P2 at the moment.
The 207s, 209, sort of that region is very competitive for this lobby. Up in Division 1, I'll anticipate we'll probably see a lot of 206s on the qualifying only. At race pace, when we start incorporating tyre wear, I don't anticipate we'll see that quite so much. But with a 207 topping us out here and the next best time roughly in the 209 mark, I'd say that's a pretty comfortable area for our Lobby D tonight.
Yeah, that's right. But for this lobby, we'll typically see race pace about 2 to 3 seconds a lap slower, just because of tyre wear. Like, you can drive hard, but you don't want to. You want to save some of your tyre. You do need to save a little bit of fuel, depending on the car you're driving as well. And that's going to impact your lap times, as well as the traffic. You can't forget that there is traffic involved. So no one's purple on their lap just yet. That means everyone's got to pick up some time towards the end. It's not going to be an impossible ask, especially with some people in the slipstream there. Vanquish actually pulling out of his lap earlier last time. So he's 20 seconds off the pace at the moment, and he was purple in a few sectors. So keep an eye on Vanquish to set an absolute flyer this one.
About a minute and a half to run in their qualifying session. So it'll be we'll be keen to see if anyone can pull out a bit of a last minute flyer.
Yeah, just between Viking Racer and Marchie Boy there, a bit of side-by-side going through some corners. Not the best idea, especially when you're on a hot lap. I don't think we're on board for that action, but that's okay. It's only qualifying. We'll endeavour to bring you all the action during the race. So Vintage Race is still your provisional pole sitter. Only a few cars left across the line. We'll see if anyone can knock him off his top step.
Purple Green Tea and Dixie just coming across the line there with a 2:08.8. Both of them are very close, so could potentially see a nice little battle there developing between Herbal and Rebel during the race. Vanquish with a 2:09.3. So those sort of top 4 or 5 cars nicely settled within about a second, 2 seconds of each other.
Yeah, so that looks like everyone to run. We are just going to have to wait the time remaining down due to Widow being in the pits. It is a feature that we can't avoid on GT Sport. But it's alright, 5 seconds and we are going to get underway. Who's your money on for the race there, Squidly?
It's a tough one, but I know that Vintage Racer carries a lot of pace. He's calm under pressure and he's got a lot of pace. Unfortunately, he seems to be served with bad luck a lot of the time. So his driver value is currently a little bit low, but my money's on Vintage Racer for the win this time.
Yeah, mustn't have had a good race in round 1 at Dragon Trail Seaside Reverse, but that's okay. He's just going to gather himself up and really push on with round 2 here. He starts from pole, leading Herbal Green Tea from 2nd and Rebel Dixie right behind him in 3rd. I think we're going to keep an eye on Vanquish as well in 5th. We know he's got pace from previous rounds, and Up You back in 7th. As lights are out and we are underway, who's got the jump? Vintage has a fantastic launch.
We've got Marchie Boy into the wall. I think we might have had a bit of a spin there, but follow through turn 1.
Rebel Dixie taking 2nd from Herbal Green Tea, ducking up the inside there. Vanquish is up to 4th. Up You Baby up to 5th, gaining 2 positions. Soul Slayer losing 2, down to 6th. It's an action-packed first couple of corners so far. Vanquish up to 3rd now. He's moving. Vintage just looking to extend that gap down to Rebel Dixie while Rebel's stuck in a battle with Vanquish. Vintage really wanting to get them out of the slipstream, nailing that set of corners there as the other two are battling. He's got himself that 1 second lead now.
Vintage definitely setting himself up nicely, trying to break away from the pack there. We've got that tyre and fuel burn both turned on again for race 1, but a lot of the drivers, there's plenty of fuel in the car. We'll see them really revving those engines out and just trying to clear away from the pack.
Yeah, we also had Widow just leave the track there. He did not start the race. He was parked up on the grid and he's just left. So shame that Widow won't be joining us for the race today.
Unfortunate. After his pit glitch during qualifying, I'd say there's a bit of an issue there with connection at whose end, whether it's the host or Widow's, I'm not sure, but unfortunately we won't see Widow this race.
Yeah, we just saw up ahead in a bit of the camera angles there that Vanquish took Rebel Dixie for second, and Rebel's just come around the outside and taken second back away. Vanquish now under pressure from Herbs as well. Herbal Green Tea going to have the inside on both of them, trying to take second. He's gone up 2 positions in 2 corners. Excellent pace there, Herbal Green Tea. Up You Baby clutched onto the back of this group as well there. So Vanquish dropping down to 4th after getting himself up to second late that lap, and all this battling has gifted Vintage Racer a 1.7 second lead as he rounds turn 1.
3 wide into turn 1 as we see Soul Slayer try to put a move there onto Dixie, but Dixie manages to go victorious through turn 1. So they just take single file into the longer downhill section here towards the bridge.
Yeah, so pit stop strategies for race 1 and race 2. It is possible to make a one-stop work in this race. You'll probably be pitting on lap 3 or 4. Pit stop will lose you about 5 seconds though. So if your car choose the tyres a bit too much, it might be an option. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone does actually pit after lap 2.
Definitely a couple of strategies. Yeah, definitely a couple of strategies you can use for this one. But race 1 is always traditionally quite a sprint race. Less of an emphasis there on the pits. But it is always important. So we see who's that? Stole Slayer, I believe. Who's that that's just taken Rebel Dixie in the Hog's Breath car there?
Hog's Breath is Vanquish there. So Vanquish up to second. Yeah, in the Hog's Breath Supra.
Yeah, I'm having some issues on my timers. We see Up You Baby just on the inside of Herbal Green Tea there with a beautifully executed move.
And Rebel Dixie taking second back from Vanquish. So these two inseparable at the moment, and Vintage just driving off in the distance up in front. So Rebel and Vanquish going to have to sort this out. They're going to have to settle into a bit of a rhythm. We may even see one of them pit just to eliminate the side-by-side corners.
Vintage has definitely capitalised on this, made himself a nice little gap there, and if he can keep it nice and clean, capitalise on this battling, he'll be looking good for the podium.
Yeah, Herb losing out a bit on that lap. He did cross the line to start lap 2 in second place, and he's crossed it to start lap 3 in 5th. So Herb just not having the best of runs through that lap, but he's still on the back of this battle group, and he's still very much in the running to take a second or possibly even a win if they can all work together and catch back up to Vintage here. Vintage doing a nice job on his tyres, as is Rebel. Vanquish pushing a bit hard, having a little bit more tyre wear than the rest of the people around him.
Yeah, while pit strategy is not quite as important on race 1, managing your tyres certainly is. Some of the guys who will be driving a little more conservatively on the first couple of laps might really be able to excel towards the end of the race if they keep those tyres nice and clean and just hang on to the back of some slipstream.
Yeah, that's right. Same as the fuel. So a bunch of people have done some test races. Maybe got caught out the first time that they did the 7-lapper that you have to save a little bit of fuel. It's not much, but it does prevent you from really running the rev gauge all the way out in each gear shift for 7 laps. You got to factor in some short shifts here and there.
Herbal with a beautiful run out of that very long off-camber right-hander after the bridge, and he's taken both Vanquish and Up You Baby, and looks to have taken 3rd position.
Yeah, Vanquish falling off the back of Rebel Dixie there.
Let's go to replay on that, boys. With Herbs.
Absolutely.
You're on board with Herbs now. Checking out his overtake.
So we see Vanquish has just gone too wide. He's touched the fence, and Herbs has muscled his way through there. Excellent work there, Herbs. As he's now back into 5th though, so all the hard work got unstuck. Vanquish has got himself back up to 3rd. 1.8 seconds behind Rebel Dixie, where he was glued to the rear bar before, so he's going to be pushing hard, trying to make that gap up. Rebel Dixie's now got no immediate pressure from behind, so he's going to be trying to close that gap to Vintage.
For Rebel Dixie right now, if he can close that gap, I think that's certainly a bonus for him. But for outright pace and where he currently sits in his own division, Rebel, I think, will be quite happy to just maintain distance ahead, maintain distance behind, and just finish nice and strongly there in 2nd. But we'll be able to see how that pans out shortly.
Yeah, 2nd going to be a good result for anyone, really, because it gives you that, in the reverse grid, you're obviously starting near the back, but there is still one other person behind you that has the pace, so you can work with them to fight through the pack together. If one makes a move, you both go up. So it's not all a bad thing starting at the back with someone that's got pace. Rebel closing that gap to Vintage just ever so slightly. He's made up 0.3 of a second in the first half of this lap. 0.4 even. As he's just gone a bit deep and nicked the fence there. Vanquish still sitting 1.7, 1.8 seconds back with W Baby hot on his heels. W doing really well this race, keeping his nose pretty clean.
Got a good little battle back with Viking Racer and
the King Oscar in the Castrol Jag there.
That's right. There's been a couple of moves with King Oscar just wanting to make the pass, but unfortunately not quite being able to pull it off.
He's tucked tight in the slipstream now. Is he going to send it up the inside? It looks like he might. He's up there on the apex. He's gifting Viking room on the outside. He's not going to be able to get it done here. I'm expecting the FT1 that Viking's driving there to be quite quick around here. That car tends to, as he's just put a foot slightly wrong and he's given King Oscar a bit of a run down to the final turn there. King Oscar sweeping around the outside and takes that 6th place away. As I was saying though, the FT1 very good on the tracks with flowing corners.
Absolutely, and good power on the main straights as well. There's a lot of ability there to put pressure on. I was wondering if that might happen. It's definitely left Viking Racer a bit of room on the inside there, unfortunately to his detriment. We'll see if he can hold on to it into this hard left-hander.
Yeah, so a bit of gentleman racing going on here. Everyone giving each other plenty of space, which is great to see. They've been side by side for a matter of corners now. King Oscar finally settling in front with enough of a gap that it looks like he's not going to come under pressure from Viking in the next set of corners. So 6th finally being decided after nearly half a lap there.
But he's got it done as they come onto the bridge. So nicely done and good racing.
Jumping up to the top, Vintage, we're just on board with Viking. This time Vintage Racer up the front in the Lexus there. He's accelerated his gap out to 3.6 seconds. Rebel Dixie possibly just suffering a little bit from tyre wear, maybe pushing a bit too hard. Losing time to Vintage in front while the battle pack behind actually gains time. So Uppy Baby up to 3rd now, taking that away from Vanquish, who's coming under pressure from Herbal. Uppy Baby just...
Yeah, that fight for 3rd, 4th and 5th definitely still raging. Helped in large part for the slipstream along that section there. As we see Vanquish coming up on Uppy Baby, definitely looking racy after a move, possibly on the main straight.
Yeah, so this one far from decided yet. I think they're a bit too far away now to get themselves a 2nd if Rebel Dixie can keep his nose clean and just keep driving the way he has been. But yeah, 3rd, last spot on the podium. Definitely not decided yet. We've got to give it to Vintage Racer though. 2 laps to go. He's got himself a 4.2 second lead. Absolutely controlling this race. He put in a dominant display in qualifying and he's led this race from start to finish. He's never been hassled for the lead so far.
He's very cool, calm and
work there,
collected.
Vintage.
Up you baby on the defensive as Vanquish looks to put in a move, but unfortunately not able to pull it off. There's a little bit of contact on the inside with Herbal. Herbal's through, and that would be Herbal there in fourth position.
Yeah, Vanquish relegated to 5th again. Vanquish probably going to get really frustrated under that helmet. No, we know he's got the pace, but he's just hasn't been able to get himself out of these battles. Being on the back of Rebel Dixie, who's currently in 2nd for the first couple of laps, I think that's going to be really getting to Vanquish there. As he's looking up the inside of Herb, he's not going to be able to get it done. He just sticks out of the move.
I wonder if Rebel might be just a little bit suffering from tyre wear as he runs a bit wide coming off the bridge. And we just see that battle pack starting to creep closer. Still outside slipstream distance, but if he can hold them off just a little bit longer.
Yeah, Rebel actually having better tyre wear than everyone else around him as well. Even Vintage up in the lead there has used a significant amount more of his tyres than Rebel. So maybe Rebel just not finding a rhythm, maybe just backing off, maybe he burns a bit too much fuel running in a lower fuel or short shifting just to make sure he gets home. Not too sure what's going on there, but still comfortably in 2nd, driving a great clean race.
He's having a beautiful run. Unfortunately, last week wasn't his week, but you know, credit where credit's due. He is having a good, nice, clean race.
Herb looking good in 3rd now. He's just opened that gap up to up here a little bit, so he's not going to be under immediate pressure for a set of corners yet, unless the Aston is a lot faster in a straight line. He's not going to be close enough for turn 1. The Herb hanging on to 3rd there. Vanquish just dropping off a little bit in 5th, but still not out of it. Using up a whole chunk of his tyres there in that Supra. I'm not sure if that's characteristic of the car or if Vanquish has just been pushing real hard. King Oscar back in 6th, still keeping that 6th position, who was fighting with Viking earlier, who has been overtaken by Soul Slayer. It's actually a big gap, so Viking possibly putting a foot wrong somewhere, having a bit of an excursion through the grass and the gravel. Palmer back in 9th in the GTR there. Nice looking green GTR. Screw Loose in the Lexus, Rockstar Energy Lexus in 10th. And Marchie Boy in that Mercedes rounding out the field in 11th, just about to start his final lap.
Unfortunately, we just saw Up You Baby coming right onto the bridge there. He's just run a little bit wide and clipped the fence, and that's put him back behind Vanquish now. Vanquish not having a great run at the end of the bridge, which really, I think that we might see Herbal stick it out in 3rd here, but that battle for 4th is going to continue to rage, I think, right to the line.
Yeah, it's very easy to put a foot wrong there. It's a very tricky sequence of corners. You've got some very crazy direction changes, camber changes, and some aggressive curbs that you don't want to touch too much. Very easy place to put a foot wrong. Not unseen in, we'll probably see that in every lobby and probably even every race as well, I'd say. It's that common. But yeah, Vanquish just settling in 4th now, opening up that gap to Up You. That's probably going to decide the positions for this race now. So we've got Vintage Racer crossing the line, flashing his lights. He's absolutely dominant performance there from Vintage Racer. 6.2 second lead over Rebel Dixie in that Carl Cox Motorsport Aston. Herbal Green Tea finally getting 3rd after 3rd place battle was going on for nearly the whole race. Up You in 4th, Vanquish in 5th, King Oscar in 6th, Soul Slayer just rubbing the fence there, but going to round out the race in 7th. Viking in that FT1, getting his 8th position. So a bit spread out at the back of the field. Is an easy track to make some mistakes, so possibly a few people just having some errors throughout their race there. ZD in the chat. G'day ZD, how are ya? So we see Palm across the line in 9th there. Screw Loose just a couple of metres behind him in 10th, crossing the line in that Lexus. And lastly, we're going to have Marchie Boy in that Mercedes. Just a bit off the pace today, but keeping his nose clean, which we like to see. Well done there, Marchie Boy.
Looks like that'll round out race 1 of round 2 for season 5 of Wheel to Wheel in division, or Lobby D, I should say.
Yeah, fantastic work there. Vintage Racer getting a clean race bonus, setting the fastest lap and getting pole position. Is Vintage going to be undefeated in race 2? It's going to be a hard work. He's got 11 people to get around. Actually, we've had Widow leave, so I think that's now 10 people.
In any case, though, he's fighting from the back of the pack. We of course run reverse grid for race 2. Race 2 is double the distance, and we'll see some different tyre strategies, some different fuel strategies start to come into play. But that's right. With pace like Vintage Racer has. We could well see him take it out again, but it really relies on a lot of consistency and keeping your nose clean. So good luck to all the drivers, as we'll be about 2 more minutes and we'll be kicking into race 2.
Yeah, so we just have a little bit of a break, just let the drivers stretch their legs, have a glass of water, go to the toilet, all those type of things, and then we jump straight back into the action there. Try not to give anyone too much time to get out and practice and really try and bounce straight off the back of race 1. But do you smell that, Squidly?
I think I do. That's a smell of a familiar tune.
It is. Oh,
Strap yourself in, people, because it's time for everybody's favorite segment: Footnotes, Fun Facts.
That's right, we're back with another edition of Footner's Fun Facts. This one is an absolute banger.
What have you got for us this week, Footner?
In North America, there is a slug called a banana slug, and they actually mate using penises on their heads. Yes, that's right, you heard it here first. Banana slugs are dickheads.
Banana slugs are dickheads.
That
seems like the
is
sort of thing that I'm going to have to put on a quote on the back of the car.
We're an educational channel here, so everyone's going to learn. So every week you tune into Wheel to Wheel, I will teach you something.
It's all about those real top tier educational channels. You've got Discovery Channel, you've got National Geographic, you've got Wheel to Wheel Racing, ladies and gentlemen. Putting us fun facts.
They're putting us on the map. Big shout out to Tombo for putting the jingle together. The segment wouldn't be as great without Tombo.
No, definitely, and obviously being an esports series, we've all got day jobs. We all do different things in our real world lives. Racing's a hobby for us, and we love doing what we do. But we've also got people who are specialists in their fields in all different sorts of things. So, Tombo, shout out for that little jingle. Footner, shout out for your researching abilities.
I've got the easy job here. I just Google a fact and present it to you guys.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
So we've got our race convener Herbal Green Tea. Just giving a couple-minute warning, letting everyone know we'll be starting soon. We've got Widow back in the lobby. He's hoping he can get back on the grid. So fingers crossed for him. We can really get that. We can really get him actually racing this time, get some points on the board, and get everyone racing.
Yeah, it would be good if we can see Widow. Unfortunately, due to DNF, which was due to technical issues, but we'll see him start at the back. If the grid's not manually set, it will put him at the front, but the onus is on the entrant there to redress to the back in a safe spot. So it'd be interesting to see if Widow does actually do that, or if Herb's going to set a manual grid. I'm not sure what's happening in that. There we go. So Herb just jumping in there saying he's going to set the grid manually. So Herb doing the longer option, but the better option. It is going to, with having redress does open up a little bit of carnage sometimes, as we've seen in past races, those of you who are in wheel to wheel.
Shout out to all of our hosts, as I call them, our race conveners. For Lobby D, we've obviously got Herbal Green Tea, but tonight we've also got for Lobby A, we've got for all the various lobbies, we've got Ben 666, we've got Hammy to the Bone, we've got NTR NSK, and for this one, Herbal Green Tea. So shout out to all of you guys. We do appreciate the work that you put in. And everyone who puts work into keeping this league running. There's more to it than just a bit of commentary, just a bit of racing, just a bit of hosting. We've got a whole team of stewards who review the races afterwards and address any complaints that any drivers have. So big shout out to all the guys involved.
And shout out to you there, Squidly, as well, for commentating.
Look, I love it.
And also a big shout out to Fine Moves on the visuals. Does an absolute bang up job, the old Fine Moves.
Cheers, boys. Cheers.
Hope you guys are enjoying the stream. We've got 22 legends joining us at the moment. G-Man giving a shout out to Ben and Fine Moves there. Agreed there, G-Man. Big shout out to Ben. Ben is the kind of taking over a bit of the running side of things from Fine Moves. Yeah. Yep. Doing a great job.
But later tonight we'll also see a little bit of commentary on Division 1, which will be... we'll have visuals by Vintage Racer, who is currently our winner within this lobby. And then we'll also have commentating Rex Buckingham, who's done a lot of commentary for us so far, and the return of K-Boy. So this will be K-Boy's debut in the commentary box for Season 5. So it'll be great to see K-Boy spin it up in the box.
Yeah, K-Boy, fellow South Australian, so I'm positive he's going to do a good job. It's just, part of the state characteristics.
I mean, you're on a weird time zone, but we won't judge you for that.
G-Man just in the chat there telling me to take it easy on him. Oh, I don't know about that, G-Man. Don't know if I can do that.
G-Man, you're going to have to take it easy on me in that lobby, because you and I are gunning for a podium in that lobby, in our division. So the way that we divide up our lobbies and we work out who's going to drive with different people in wheel to wheel, we've got a system which runs off driver value. So across the whole division or the whole league, all of the drivers are assigned a value which goes up and down each week depending on your performance relative to the remainder of the entire league. So while you're only competing specifically within your division for points, you are, however, against all of the other races across the whole league, which determines which lobby you'll be in tonight. So the lobby A tonight is going to be about the 10 or 12 fastest drivers from our previous race in round 1.
Yeah, so we do that just to kind of keep the parity in the rooms. So you want everyone as closely matched as possible, so you get as much action as you can and close racing. As Herbal's just pressed the button, so we are about to go racing for race 2, 14-lap reverse grid race around Saint Croix. Don't say it as well as Squidly does, but you're gonna have to live with it.
I'm not French, so it's all guesswork. Now,
alright, so Widow's starting off pole is interesting. No, he's not. Is he? I can't tell. My camera's not working. There we go, it's all fixed. Yep, so Widow up front.
You should see him redress that with a bit of luck, but in the meantime, we'll just focus on the action.
Yeah, so Marchie Boy was going to be your pole sitter, as Widow's just crept forward a bit too early. He's going to pull it off to the side, hopefully not to get cleaned up, as he does twice. It's a messy start. This is why we don't to do that. King Oscar losing out big time there, facing sideways on the start grid back in 12.
Hopefully we can get King Oscar back up and running, back up into the pack. Unfortunate start. Fortunately, we do have 14 laps as we start to see Vintage Racer, Herbal Green Tea, and looks like Screw Loose gets taken out
we've
by
got
Palmer. Very unfortunate.
Big
Palmer's
moment there.
Yeah, Palmer just a little bit on the loud pedal too much coming out of that left-hander, and he's just cleaned up Screw Loose, so unfortunate for that one.
Yeah, so Screw Loose suffering a little bit of damage there, just about to get overtaken by King Oscar, dropping down to last. But up the front, we've got Vanquish. So Vanquish finishing 5th in the last race.
Obviously with a fantastic start.
Yes, going from what would have been 8th, I believe, 7th or 8th on the grid to 1st in half a lap with a 1 second gap back to Soul Slayer. So Vanquish looking very dominant in the early stages of this race. Soul Slayer, after not having the best race one, is well settled into second here with a bit of racetrack either side of him. Third, you got Rebel Dixie, who was your second place getter in race one.
Also
so Rebel
jumping
also
about 8
making up.
places through lap one. So some outstanding performances and obviously some great launches from some of these guys. Great to see.
Yeah, Vintage up to 5th as well. So Vintage getting past Herbal and Upyu, who were both in front of him and very competitive in the last race. So it looks like everyone's getting through their positions early, possibly due to that carnage with the start line events. But normally you'd see a few people start at the back, taking a matter of laps to get through. As we've got contact from Rebel on Soul. Oh, hope that wasn't lag. No, Soul is in the fence with engine damage on the last turn.
Well, I didn't see what happened there, unfortunately. Is that
just going to replay there, boys? Yeah.
Go to replay, perfect.
So Rebel just right up the back, just maybe missing brake marker. Oh, it looks very unlucky. Soul's come across. Rebels stayed out wide. Gonna have to report that one to the stewards, I think, and get their input. That one's hard to call.
Shout out to Soul Slayer there as well. He sat there, he was facing the wrong way, and he sat there off the apex, making sure all the cars were clear before he resumed the racing line and actually started back on the track. So again, after an unfortunate situation, which maybe a bit questionable, good sportsmanship from Soul Slayer for keeping out of everyone else's race as well and letting everyone crack on.
Yeah, Soul Slayer very much known for his sportsmanship. You won't see Soul Slayer getting anywhere near other cars. He likes to keep some space, not touch anyone, and very sportsmanlike racer. There we go.
Bit of a battle here as we see Herbal and Marchie Boy. Marchie Boy quite wide. I think we'll see Herbal slide through on the inside as he tries to snag the slipstream back off Vintage Racer just outside of that realm, 1.7 seconds ahead.
Yeah, we also saw Upyu with a penalty there. I'm not sure how he's managed to get himself a 2-second penalty on this track, but possibly cutting turn 1 would be my only thoughts. But yeah, Upyu still got he's serving it slowly. He's got 1 second left of that penalty, just cleverly serving it in a braking zone. He is going to have to see the rest of that 1 second burnt off before the start of this next lap, though. That is part of our rules here in Wheel to Wheel. Kind of trying to replicate the way the FIA stuff's run, but without having the lobby settings to do so. We just implement it from a stewarding point of view. So we'll see Upyu burn his penalty off here. No, we won't.
I think we might see him pull off to the side and just burn it before the line. Maybe not.
It looks like he's going to cross the line with his penalty, so possibly getting a penalty through something that he doesn't feel that was his fault. It does happen, and we don't require that people serve penalties if they are unfair, and they can justify that at the end of the race.
Exactly right. That's another reason we have the stewards.
Yeah, that's it. So you don't want to lose time if it's unfair. So we don't make you serve a penalty that you don't need to serve. But that is to be confirmed by the stewards later. So just jumping up to position number 1 there, numero uno, we have Vanquish with a 4.4 second lead after 2 1/3 laps. Rebel Dixie's found himself back in his favourite position of second, under pressure from the race 1 winner and qualifier, Vintage Racer.
Vintage will definitely look to be putting a move on as Dixie doesn't get the best drive off the left-hander after the bridge.
Yeah, so Vintage now going to have to slipstream the whole way through this flat-out section. He's just going to round this right-hander there. Very tricky corner to get right. Nestle himself into Rebel Dixie's slipstream.
Based on the pace of... I was just going to say, based on the pace of Vintage Racer in the last race, I think that Dixie's best move right now is probably just going to be to let him pass cleanly and then to stick with his slipstream as much as he can and help drag him up nice and close to Vanquish.
I agree. With 11 and a half laps left to go, that lead that Vanquish has is not going to be unachievable for Vintage to narrow down, but it will be if he starts battling with Rebel. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good move from Rebel Dixie, just maybe not sending the move up on Vintage, but rather helping him along, giving him those taps along the straight when you have the opportunities to bump draft.
That's right. I think that Vintage and Dixie are both in quite strong positions, actually. They might be about 5 seconds back from the leader there, Vanquish, but beautifully looking after their tyres. So in a race that's 14 laps long, the less pits you need to do, the better. So Vanquish might be running a 2-pit strategy, and if he can make that work for him and really capitalise on those tyres, then we'll be in a good position. But if he's chasing the same strategy as Vintage and Rebel, as those tyres go off in a couple of laps' time, I really think that that Vintage and Dixie are in quite a strong position.
Very much. So we've got a little bit of a battle developing for fourth here. Herb catching up to the back of up here at a rate of knots. So these two were locked in a battle for third that we saw in race 1 for a matter of laps.
7 laps. All 7 of them.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's going to be hard for one of these to settle in position and pull away, as we've seen, but it's very important they don't get stuck in a battle, like we've been saying. It is very easy to lose time, and the more time you lose, the harder it's going to be to catch back up at the end of the race. So you do have to race smart. Racing isn't just about being the fastest, it's also a little bit about being the smartest.
A bit of gamesmanship now could definitely help them in those laps 12, 13, 14.
Vintage setting purple sectors on this lap as well. Lap 4, his tyres are a bit worn, his car's slowly getting lighter on fuel, but he's still purple. So Vintage showing amazing pace, just trying to bridge that gap to Vanquish. He's just missed that apex a little bit, we saw. That's alright.
Yeah, I believe our best qualifying time was within the 208s. I believe it was 207 actually, sorry, set by Vintage Racer.
Yep, Vintage set a 207.
But if he can be on for about a 208.5 in this, that's quite a competitive mid-race time at race pace.
Yeah, well, I was doing some running in the in a lobby with a bunch of the Div 1 drivers, and I was setting to low 208 to mid 208s early on in the stint. By the end, it was late 208s. So managing those tyres, very important in this race, especially for those doing the one-stop. Because there is a 2-stop and availability, and we've got more laps, you can make that time up a lot easier. So being on a one-stop, you do have to make sure you're very consistent and not losing too much time. One little mistake that costs you about 2 to 3 seconds can instantly put you behind a 2-stop overall time. So Vanquish doing a fantastic job out in front, keeping his nose clean, keeping it out of the fence, using a bit of tyre. His fuel's also a bit lower than Vintage, so Vintage possibly going to make up some time in the pits, depending on their strategy difference.
That's right. If Vanquish is going for a 2-pit strategy, it's quite likely he'll pit at the end of this lap. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, what strategy he's running. But in any case, maintaining his roughly 4.3, 4.4 second lead over Vintage.
Yeah, speaking of pit stops, we've had Soulslayer duck into the pits on that Mustang. We know the Mustangs are quite heavy on their tyres, so Soulslayer pitting after 4 laps. 2 stop being a 2 5-lap stints and a 4, or you can push them out 1 lap either side of that. But I typically expect Soulslayer to be doing 2 5-lap stints now, as the car probably gets a bit lighter on fuel. This first one to pit, first one to blink in at the end of lap 4.
Yeah, Soulslayer really didn't have anything to lose there after his spin, so it made sense to jump in.
Yeah, we'll jump up the front with Vanquish, just see if he pulls aside to the pits. He's not, he's going to stay out. So looking like he's going to be on the 1 stop at this stage, or he could be doing a 6 and 2 4s. He may find that strategy works best for him. Vintage slowly clawing a little bit of time back, getting the gap back down to 4.4 after losing a little bit the laps just gone. Rebel still sitting pretty in 3rd with nothing to worry about in front or behind, which cannot be said for Up You Baby in 4th, who is still under pressure from Herb. So these two inseparable again. Inseparable, I think the word is.
I wasn't going to say anything on air, but hey. No, definitely Herbal looking quite racy, putting a lot of pressure there on Up You. It'd be great to see. It'd be great to see these guys working together, and I hope they are, just to really close that gap. But at the end of the day, it's each driver's preference. If they want to be racing and really make that battle for 4th, out to them.
Yeah, just another note on the battling and the cost of battling. As we said, we do award points based on overall time. So the person you see finish first in this lobby may not get points that reflect the first place. So we don't have individual points for the lobby; they are combined. We race in different lobbies. However, all the points get distributed in one big long list from fastest overall down to slowest overall. So if you're battling in one lobby with someone who's maybe a bit slower or even faster than you, and you're losing both of you time, you're both going to fall down that list, and it's definitely not smart to do. So you really want to pick your battles, pick the times that you can fight a bit and send those overtakes, or sometimes it is better just to lap, a couple tenths a lap slower behind someone than it is to lap 2 seconds slower a lap by going side by side with someone.
Herbal looks to try for a move around the outside, but unfortunately just couldn't hold on to it, which has let Up You Baby skitter away in front. Not outside of slipstream distance though, so Herbal will keep that pressure on.
Yeah, so everyone except for Soulslayer has stayed out for their 1 stop. So we've got Soulslayer on the 2 stop, everyone else on the 1 stop.
Marchie Boy just going in there in 6th. In 7th he is now, of course. As King Oscar also managed to pull off a nice little move. Now King Oscar, of course, not having the best start, caught up in the tangle that occurred with Widow, unfortunately, but making good inroads back to the front. So good on you for sticking with it, King Oscar. It's an unfortunate situation, but he looks to be making lemonade out of it.
Yeah, beautiful stuff, King Oscar. A driver very well known for his composure and tyre saving and fuel saving ability as well. So he could possibly get a few more positions in this race. He might need a bit of luck, being 15 seconds back from Herbal Green Tea there, but yeah, King Oscar having a great recovery drive so far.
That battle continues as Herbal Green Tea's back up within 4 tenths of Up You Baby, so he's a bit clear of King Oscar back in 6th, but maintaining the rage on Up You Baby there and not really closing the gap to Dixie, still 2 seconds in front of Up You.
Yeah, Dixie losing a little bit of time to Vintage in front each lap as Vintage is making up time on Vanquish, so Vintage found another 5 tenths since we last checked in. Gap's now under 4 seconds. I say that as it just goes, it's back under 4. So the gap, sitting about 4 seconds. It's a bit more correct. So we expect to see both of these guys in the pits. Vanquish especially because he's low on fuel. Actually, Vintage using a lot of fuel as well. So no one really putting in the fuel saving efforts. Everyone really running their tanks dry.
Vanquish doing very well on comparatively poor tyres. as we just see Vanquish ducking into the pits.
Yeah, so he's going to have 5% of fuel. Vintage Racer will be on 6, so it's much of a muchness there. No real difference. Rebel Dixie in with 5% as well. Up you with 4, Herb with 6. So everyone basically the same. We're not seeing anyone deploying the fuel-saving strategies and making up time in the pits, which is common in some of our lobbies.
15 for King Oscar, so he's maintained his composure and he looks to have saved a bit of fuel there, as we see Vanquish out in front, 3.5 seconds in front of Vintage. So Vintage looks to have made up just a little bit of time, possibly under fueling slightly to try and close that gap with the intent of fuel saving a little more in the second half of the race.
Yeah, so Vanquish with it all to lose so far, as he's just dipped the wheel. He's gone, he's staking it up the road. He's lost a chunk of time there, just pushing a bit too hard on cold tyres. Vintage closing that gap up to under 2 seconds now. So Vanquish, after having such a dominant first stint, has just lost all of his time there by making one small error.
Vintage will be absolutely hunting for that slipstream, because once he's got it, he won't be keen to let it go, and then the battle for first will be on.
Yeah, Vintage looking for both of those race wins.
Both of these drivers are very strong, obviously not having the best run last week, but both of these are two of our stronger drivers.
Yeah, that's correct. So Herbs and Up You managing to finally find the back of Rebel Dixie in this race. It's only taken them 8 laps, but Up You Baby firmly nestled in Rebel Dixie's slipstream there. Looks like he could have a run and send a move up here into the right-hander. He just peels out and he brakes late, and it looks like he's going to pull it up and get that move done very cleanly. Nicely done there, Up You, and Rebel Dixie giving him all the room to do that.
These two are, of course, teammates, so they won't be looking to get too racy and wreck each other. And I think Dixie's just quite keen to stick on the back of that, save some fuel, save some tyres, and again, just make a nice clean finish.
Yeah, so as we said, the battling can cost you, so it's probably a good strat from Rebel. You don't want to get stuck in a battle, especially if you know you're equally paced, because that way you won't lose much time during the lap. So now Rebel's got that slipstream from Up You, and Up You's got that clean air in front to try and push on ahead and set some qualifying laps. As Herbs is clutching onto the back of Rebel Dixie there, firmly nestled in that slipstream. Probably not going to be close enough to send this move up into the left-hander here, but shortly in the lap, I think we're going to see a move from Herbal on Rebel Dixie.
That's right, nice little battle pack developing. Looks like a bit of a lonely race for all of our other participants behind, from 6th down to 11th, all with a little bit of space, so maybe we'll keep running on with this battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, credit to everyone for hanging in there and continuing to drive around. We do actually award quitting penalties, so if you quit a race through no valid means, you will get penalised. We do recommend against that.
Yeah, it's something we don't encourage, is obviously people becoming upset and quitting as a result. We like to see people make the most of a bad situation and really just try to crack on and get some points, even in a bad situation. Vintage Racer, looking up ahead to 2nd position. Vintage Racer 4 tenths up in the fastest lap at this stage as they enter the 3rd sector.
Yeah, so Vintage getting that gap all the way down to Vanquish. 1.2 seconds now with 5 laps to run.
7 tenths up on the fastest lap. He's rocketing round. Looks like he's just clutching onto Vanquish's slipstream and really capitalising as we see that gap really fall now, almost under a second.
Yeah, so Vanquish going to be feeling the pressure now. He knows it was his race to win, and unfortunately that small little error where he just went wide and lost all that time, brought him into the clutches of Vintage Racer.
Beautiful fastest lap time there by Vintage Racer with a purple lap of 2 minutes 8 seconds, 0.196. So that's flying.
That is flying for this division. I think that'll probably top some of the other divisions we'll see as well. 2:08.1 in a race is a fantastic pace.
Definitely Vanquish well set within his sights and a gap of 8 tenths, which continues to fall. I think this will start to come down to how well Vanquish is able to defend. Now that we know that there's some within the league who are just outstanding at defence and will be able to hold off drivers for a long time. But on a track like this where there's so many long straights, it'll be tough to see if Vanquish can hold them off.
Yeah, as we watch Vintage hunting down Vanquish there, we will just bring the attention back to the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th there. Herb getting up close to Rebel Dixie, just braking a bit early, making sure there's no contact, dropping back a tiny bit there, but he was right on the back bar of Rebel Dixie coming across the bridge there. So Herb letting Upview get away a bit in the distance. Those two were firmly connected at the hip in the earlier laps of this race.
It's great to see that nice close racing, but nice and clean as well. It's one of the things that sets a lot of our drivers apart is that spatial awareness, being able to race nice and close, but not actually touching other drivers.
Just quickly hopping back to the battle for 6th there, we got King Oscar sending a move up on Marchie Boy. So King Oscar continuing his recovery drive in fantastic fashion there, getting a move done on Marchie Boy. He's just got on the loud pedal a bit too much, but he's going to drive it around the outside. So nicely done there, King Oscar. Back up to your 6th position.
And again,
after facing the fence on the start line.
Yeah. I was just saying again, credit to Clean Racing. Marchie Boy, one of our newer guys here, he's embraced the way we like to drive and the way that we like to see racing. Kept it nice and clean. He knew he probably had a run on King Oscar, but kept it nice and close to the apex to keep out of the way.
Yeah, so we've had Vanquish and Vintage Racer overtake Palmer there. Palmer sitting back in 2 minutes and 12 seconds off the lead, possibly not having the greatest of races, setting a 3 minute and 9 lap time in there somewhere as well.
Yeah, good to see both of them cleanly get past lap traffic.
Yeah, we don't have ghosting lap cars enabled, so the onus is on the driver being shown the blue flags to let the faster cars through, which is very standard in motorsport. So Vintage still not getting close enough to Vanquish for a move. He is in the slipstream, but he just hasn't been able to make it work yet. It is possible he's just sitting back, biding his time, waiting for Vanquish to make a mistake.
Yeah, he'll definitely have to pick his moment because, again, on a track like this, with these long straights and the Supra being quite a powerful car in a straight line comparative to the Lexus, there's no point breezing past another driver or another car and then just having that lead taken off you at the next corner. So he'll need to pick his moment, bide his time, and he may just be doing that.
Yeah, it's back in 3rd there. Rebel Dixie has managed, and Herbs have both managed to get around Upview. Upview falling off the back of that group by 1.6 seconds. Possibly making an error somewhere, I believe. Going from 3rd to 5th in just that last sector. So Herb's still not being able to get around Rebel Dixie, although he is firmly nested in the slipstream here. He's going to look for a great run out of turn 3 as Dixie goes a bit wide. It's allowed Herbs to get on the accelerator a bit early and get that bit of a run. It's going to be a hard place to move. No, he's lifted. He's backed off the accelerator. He's just slot in behind.
Herbal, definitely a smart racer. He's not one known to put moves up where they don't belong. And,
speaking of moves, Vintage up into 1st from Vanquish.
See if we can get a replay on that fine moves.
Not sure how long ago it happened. possibly coming out of turn 1 again. Yes, so we just saw Vanquish, same spot again as the time he lost the first time. He's just gone a bit wide coming out of the left-hander, all 4 wheels on the grass, grazed the fence. Vintage keeping himself clean through that corner, has given him the run to take first. So now Vanquish has it all to do, and Vintage has it all to lose. Vintage been very cool, calm and collected for this last 40 minutes of racing, including race 1.
Vanquish, of course, by no means out of this, though. One mistake does not a race make, and we know he's got the pace, so there's definitely going to be a battle on for first position.
Yeah, both of them having very similar fuel and very similar tyres, so it's just going to come down to the skill here. No one really saving tyre or fuel for a bit of a charge late. They're both going to be neck and neck until the line. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to make the mistakes. Purple Green Tea back in 4th, still not managing to get up to the back of Rebel Dixie and make that move stick. Just following those Aston Martin tail lights around for the whole race so far.
Those Astons have a lot of pace in a straight line, so he's got a lot of work to do. But again, he's a smart racer, and I think he knows that if he can just get himself up nice and close to the bumper at the right spot, there'll be a move there for him.
Yeah, we got Vanquish putting the pressure on Vintage for first at the moment. They're separated by only 1/10 of a second coming into the downhill section before the bridge. Vanquish going to look to get a nice run over here and send it up the inside of the bridge. It's not going to be a good enough run, but he does have the slipstream. Up ahead, we've got Screw Loose, just peeling off to the side, going to let the guys through. He's out of the throttle. Fantastic work there, Screw Loose.
Ooh, a little bit of contact with Vanquish into the back of Vintage. He's not capitalising on the extra pace that he would have had, so he's obviously recognised his mistake.
Possibly just gaining a few kilometres per hour with the slipstream and not realising when he gets to his braking marker.
The battle continues.
Up You Baby dropping a bit more time back to 4th as well, so maybe making a few errors. Lap times in the last 2 laps have not been anywhere near the laps he's been setting normally. So poor old Up You Baby there, having a race to forget. Although 5th still a good result. Just probably going to be kicking himself, didn't quite get that 3rd that he was charging for so hard. Vanquish back up to 1st. Vanquish back up to 1st position, taking that away from Vintage. So much going on throughout this race, we don't know where to look.
Absolutely, as Vintage looks like he's going to have a run. Vanquish goes defensive on the inside, but Vintage definitely with the run on the final lap, so Vanquish really going to want to try and hold on to it.
Yeah, so Vanquish going defensive and then going all the way out to the left. It's an interesting strategy. It allowed Vintage to try and get up the inside, but Vintage was very kind and braked early. So this is your final lap. They are racing for sheep stations as Vintage just gives Vanquish a bit of a tap.
We'll definitely see the battle for 1st and the battle for 3rd. We'll both of them are probably going to escalate at around the same time, so we'll try and...
Oh, there's contact.
Contact.
Oh, he's pushed him wide.
Fence.
Vintage has continued on across the bridge. Vanquish dropping that gap down to nearly 2 seconds, shaking around a bit, cleaning up his tyres.
Yeah, I didn't see the exact events that led up to that.
We've got a replay coming up. There is a replay. Yeah, so Vanquish just turning in, and there was a Vintage racer, Lexus, parked right there. Not too sure who was up, whether Vintage was up far enough on that apex. We will have to let the stewards decide that one. But certainly a lot of action in the closing stages of race 2 WD here. Speaking of action, Up You Baby gone from 5th to 3rd. Rebel Dixie and Herbal Green Tea being relegated to 4th and 5th respectively. So must have had a coming together or something there. We've missed all the action here. So Up You getting that 3rd back.
Crazy. Up You Baby in 3rd. And Vanquish not going to be able to take it back off Vintage Racer as they come onto the last corner in the final straight.
Yeah, Vintage will be crossing the line first. He has lifted out of the throttle.
Vintage
he's given Vanquish the win.
Very interesting. Vintage has obviously felt that he took that win off Vanquish at the corner. He's lifted out of the throttle and given that to Vanquish. So we talk about sportsmanship here. It doesn't get any better than that, ladies and gents. That's
big ups to Vintage Racer there. I guess that means it possibly was his fault. Maybe breaking a bit late. Maybe not getting the stewards involved now if that doesn't get reported. But we'll go back down through the grid. Up You Baby getting his 3rd position back. Great to see there. Rebel Dixie finishing in 4th. Herbal Green Tea managing to look at those Aston Martin tail lights for the duration of this race and finishing 5th. King Oscar with a fantastic recovery drive from starting the race in basically last, facing sideways on the grid, getting himself at 6th position there. Marchie Boy crossing the line in that Mercedes for 7th. Soul Slayer was, I think he might have been our only 2-stopper, or we may have had one.
Was, yeah.
Yeah, so Soul Slayer on the 2-stopper, who we also saw in a very unfortunate incident there, was facing the wrong way at the last turn, got himself back down to last before he rejoined, so decent recovery drive there from Soul Slayer, getting back up to 8th from last. Screw Loose in 10th, not managing to get his last lap under pace due to being lapped, but Viking Racer will be finishing the race in 9th in that FT1. So Vintage Racer nearly looking like he was going to have that 1-2 tonight, just giving Vanquish the win in the end there. I think that would still see Vintage finish higher than Vanquish for the round due to the time difference in the first race. So Vintage still going to be the overall fastest of this lobby.
But all in all, just fantastic racing throughout. There's all throughout both of the races that we saw tonight. Just some beautiful battles going on with a lot of different cars involved. We couldn't keep up with the action on the last lap with the different battles that were going on. So great to see, nice and close, and some great sportsmanship to boot. So congratulations to all of our drivers tonight, and don't forget to hang with us as well, keeping on with the action for Division 1, which will be rolling over on our Twitch stream very shortly.
Indeed, for those of you who haven't watched enough racing tonight, stay tuned. We have a cracking race shaping up in Div 1.